Hi students, in last class we discussed about BP, blood pressure, through which instrument doctor will measure the BP, sphygmomanometer, diastolic and systolic 120 by 80. Also discussed coagulation of blood, a material transport within the plants. And today class we will discuss that what is root pressure. We discussed root hair. So in today class we are going to discuss what is root pressure. How the water will enter into the stem through the root pressure. So in root hair we discussed the root hair. So from the low concentration to the high concentration, by osmosis process, the water enter into cell sap to the xylem. So xylem vessel is transport the water to the plant's body. There is a small activities there. Take a regular watering potted plants. A regular watering potted plants. So then we should cut the stem of the potted plants with 1 centimeter from the ground. 1 centimeter from the ground. Okay. Please know that there is roots is inside the soil. Select on potted plants, cut it 1 centimeter from the ground. And now we should fix the glass tube. We can take exactly same size of the stem, cut stem portion. The stem, the glass side should be exactly size of the stem, because it should be the stem can fix it properly in the glass tube, because there should be no leakage of water, and there should be we should fix 2 clamps. And there is a stamped rubber tube is there to fix this stem and the glass tube. Stamp, rubber stamp. So rubber stamp tube should be there to fix this stem and the glass tubes. And soil, it's a soil, and we have to take water in 1 bowl. The front portion of this potted plant has to be broken down. So broken down, we can see the clear picture of this, where the soil is present, where the root are penetrated the soil, we can easily observe. So now set apart like this experiment. Take a potted plant, cut it in 1 centimeter from the ground. So we should fix the glass tube exactly into the stem, and we are fixing a rubber stamp tube here, glass tube, clips. There should be no leakage of water from stem to the outside of this experiment. Soil is there, water is there. So now we are going to pour some water into the glass tube. We are pouring from externally water into this glass tube. So mark it as capital M1. Mark it as capital M1. So we should measure where the water level is there. Put it any mark here. We should mark here. the water level capital M1 is up to here. So keep this experiment in the water, in the dish, petri dish containing water. Keep it few hours. Let's start observing what happens with the root pressure. So in last class we discussed that from the low concentration to the high concentrations. From the soil particle, the water is low concentration enter into the cell sap. From the cell sap, cortex to the xylem. So through the xylem, the water transport from stems to the body part. When the water is coming away from the xylem to the stem, so we can see after a few minutes, a few hours, the water level in the stem, the water level in the glass tube will be increased. Mark it as capital M2. Mark it as capital M2. So by the root pressure, what happens? The water is coming away from the stem to the xylem. So the first water level we mark as capital M1. After, so to the root pressure, the internal pressure happens. Some chemicals, some enzymes reactions will take place, and the root pressure to pull the water out of the stem to the xylem. So we can mark it as capital M2. So from M1 minus M2 minus M1, we can measure how much water is increased in the glass tubes. So this is nothing but root pressure. But the root pressure, through the experiment we prove that through the root pressure the water level is increased in the glass tube. So when we pour the water level into the glass tubes, it will be marked as capital M1. After observing the experiment, so we can see, so the water level is increased, then we marked as M2. Then we will get a result. So by the root pressure, how the water level is increased in this test tube. So this is about a simple experiment by what is root pressure. So the next one is the mechanism of waters. In 9th class, 8th class, I think you learned the mechanism of water movement in plants. Mechanism of water movement. Mechanism of water movements in plants. How the water movements will take place in the plants? Take one of potted plants, healthy potted plants. So it's going to have a long leaf, a narrow leaf. I think you already 9th class, 8th class, you will learn this. So take a polythene cover. We should cover this polythene cover for few leaves. So what happens? Keep this experiment in the presence of sunlight. After a few minutes or hours, we can see some water drops laid in the polythene cover. Where does this water came into the polythene cover? From outside? No, from the root. From the root, the water is drawn from the cell sap and the cortex and the xylem. Through the stomata, the water will transport. The water will evaporate into the atmosphere. To prevent the loss of water, we have fixed the polythene cover. You can see when the water is going away from this leaf to the stomata, we can see in the polythene cover droplets of water. It is nothing but transpiration in plants. In 9th class, I think we discussed about this transpiration. Mechanism of water movements in the plants. When photosynthesis process takes place, plants utilize carbon dioxide, water in the presence of sunlight, and chlorophyll. They prepare carbohydrates, they release oxygen. During hot condition, the plants will transpire more water into the atmosphere. We also discussed, if you pour 1 liter of water to the plants, they utilize 0.01 ml of water for the further photosynthesis. Remaining 999 ml of water will be evaporated into the atmosphere. This is about the mechanism of movements of plants transpirations. So the transpiration takes place in the plants. So if you take a oak tree, so an oak tree will respire around 900 liters of water per day. An oak tree will transpire around 900 liters of water into the atmosphere. If you take a mature maize crop which can transpire around 15 liters of water per day. 15 liters of water per day. In one day, a maize plants will transpire around 15 liters of water per day. If you took 1 acre of land in a maize plants, 1 acre of land in maize plants, it will transpire around 13,25,000 liters of water per day. In 1 acre land of the maize, mature maize, can transfer around 13,25,000 liters of water per day. If you take a mango, a very big mango plants, it will be transfer around 750 liters to 3,500 liters of water per day. So the most of the water will evaporate into the atmosphere by the plants only. Where the plenty of plants is there plenty of water will be evaporated into the atmosphere. Where the plenty of plants is there we can see plenty of rains. So this is the secret of growing plants. So next will be the transportation of minerals and salts. Transportation of minerals and salts. So we know that the minerals, salts are absorbed from the soil by the root hairs present in the roots of the plants. So there are so many water absorbed from the soils, salts absorbed from the soils, minerals are absorbed from the soils and into the xylem. Xylem is responsible for the transportation of minerals, salts into the plants, for their growth, for their body repairs. Everything is absorbed from the soil. There are some chemicals they cannot directly enter into the plants. Sodium chloride, magnesium sulfate. Sodium chloride and magnesium sulfates, they cannot absorb directly, but sodium chloride absorbed in the form of sodium and sodium plus and chlorine ions minus, negative, positive and negative. Magnesium sulfate Mg2 plus and SO4 minus. Sodium chloride cannot absorb directly into the plants in the form of sodium ions, chlorine ions. Sodium positive plus and chlorine negative. Magnesium sulfates, magnesium 2 plus, sulfate 2 minus. So the plants cannot directly absorb, but in the form of divisions, in the form of like elements, they will absorb the transportation of minerals and salts in the plants. So many minerals is required, so many salts is required to these plants. The last one is transportation of materials in plants. Transportation of materials in plants. How the materials will transport in the plants? We already know that xylem is phloem is responsible for the transportation of food materials in the plants. If we take on the plants, side observe this aphid is clustering on the plants to suck the juice from the plants. So, aphid. Aphid have a very long proboscis. This aphid have very long So this aphids clustering on the plants to the proboscis. So it's a long, like a needle-like structure is there. A needle-like structure. This long needle-like structure is called as proboscis. Aphids. So plants, so in the plants, so there is a xylem and phloem is there. Xylem and phloem. So through the along a needle-like structure, aphids will penetrate into the host plants through the proboscis. To the long needle-like structure, proboscis. This proboscis will penetrate into the plant stem. So, where the xylem and phloem is, vessels is there. Through the phloem, the food will transport. Through the xylem, water will transport in the plant. So, where xylem and where the exactly phloem is there, until the phloem, it will penetrate into the host plants to absorb the food materials from the plants. It is very clever insects, aphids. To scientists, they want to observe. So what this aphids is observing from the plants. So what they did? So they, while clustering, while sucking the juice from the plant, so what they did? They destroy these aphids. They kill the aphids, but they do not remove the proboscis present on the plants. They remain the proboscis. Proboscis is there inside the plants. So they destroy, they remove the proboscis. What happens? From this proboscis, there is a small hole is there. From this hole, there is a liquid substance is coming away from these plants. They collected the liquid substances, they went to the lab and they tested the liquid substances. It contains amino acids and sugars. In the liquid substances, it's there, what is there? Amino acids and sugars. When they tested in the lab, it contains amino acids and sugar. This aphids through the proboscis sucking the juice from the phloem. It's contain amino acids and sugar. So such type of aphids or insects are destroying the plants when they are penetrate the proboscis into the stem. What happens? The food materials will come away from the plants, it will not survive. So this is about the proboscis. So next one is, even some bark destroyed in the plants, does they will survive or not? You can see some bark removed in the plants. How they will survive? You can see some. There are two diagrams they have given in textbook. See the stem. So this is the stem, and the stem have what happens due to some reasons, due to some animals, So the village peoples, they will cut the bark of the plants. So if you cut bark of the plants, what happens? Which part is present in the stem of the plants? Xylem and phloem is present. Xylem is responsible for the transportation of water to the plants. Phloem is responsible for the transportation of food materials. If unfortunately, if the phloem is damaged, in upper portion, what happens? The food materials will go away from the stem. Instead of sending to the next part, the food materials will stuck or accumulated in one part. The food materials are accumulated in one part. Where the food materials are accumulating or gathering in one place, there we can see growth parts. But here, if the food materials are not sending to the next part, we cannot see the no growth. So if the food materials are storing in one particular place, there we can see the length of the plant size will be increased. If what happens, if the xylem and phloem vessel totally destroyed, plants will not survive because it will die. Because if water is not transporting, food materials will not prepare, food materials are not transporting to the root, it will not survive. So there is a great damage to this animals. There are so many animals is there, like rabbit. A rabbit is there, and foxes, badgers, hawks, grey squirrel. The squirrels are destroying so much plants, so much crops in the fields. Like rat is there, rabbit, rat, there are so many animals that destroy the crops in the fields. So many animals that are destroying the plants in the forest also. That's why there is a fencing is there in some fields. Fencing is there in some forests. So the animals cannot enter into the field. So they cannot damage this crops and the fields. This is about transportation of materials in the plants. So squirrels and the grey squirrel is very dangerous. It's damaging most crops in the field. There's pig also is there. Pigs. These pigs are destroying the crops also. Rats are digging holes in the soils. They are destroying the crop. They will cut the stems. They will eat the stem. They will enjoy this food materials. So there is a great damage in the fields. Damage in for the farmers also. So this is about the mechanism of water transportation, transportation of minerals and salts, transportation of materials in the plants. Till now, so this transportation third lesson has been completed. Okay. So the today homework, you have to write what is root pressure. What is root pressure? The diagram you have to draw and explain it. And the mechanism of water movement in plants. Just to draw the diagram. So how the transpiration takes place in the plants. If you want to write a few more points about this epi. How the epi is destroying the plants by piercing proboscis into the plants with a thin and very sensitive stems will be destroyed. It will suck in the juice from the phloem. When scientists they observe these fluids, it contains amino acids and sugar. Okay. Thank you, students. The third lesson has been completed. Next we will discuss about fourth lesson. Okay. If any pending work is there, you have to finish it, and don't forget to read very carefully. So this third units. So in Andhra Pradesh we got the timetable. In April, 10th class exams will be there. April month. Actually, it will be held in March, but in this year it postponed to April. Telangana also will get recently scheduled. Don't neglect. So don't give our imagination. There will be no exams. 100% exams will be conducted. So April month I think. Read carefully.